Sri Lankans mark the beginning of the Sinhala and Tamil New Year, shortages of food, fuel and medicine are threatening festivities. Residents have been queuing up for hours to get their hands on essential goods.
Fuel is not there and kerosene is not there, dollar is not there, gas is not there. People are every time it's outside, they are sitting on the road.
Protests like this are becoming a daily occurrence in Colombo. The economy is buckling under rising prices and unemployment. Its worst financial crisis since independence in 1948. And demonstrators are laying blame on the policies of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and his brother Mahinda, who serves as Prime Minister.
People are fighting because they have been fed up of this system for a long time, not just a year or two, like we have been fed up for a very long time. And now it's the time for us to get together and just shout out to act against this corrupted system.
Soaring international prices for fuel and other commodities drove inflation up to more than 18% last month. Spending on imports has also drained Sri Lanka's foreign exchange reserves, which have fallen to less than $500 million. Hoping to attract more funds, the central bank doubled the benchmark interest rate to 14.5% last week. But that's done little to arrest the economic decline, and the government says it's unable to meet its financial debt obligations.
Recent events, including the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and the fallout from the hostilities in Ukraine, have so eroded Sri Lanka's fiscal position that continued normal servicing of external public debt obligations has become impossible.
It's now defaulting on foreign loans. Officials say the move will help free up foreign currency it desperately needs to finance imports of food and fuel after months of scarce supply. But its ability to earn dollars has been severely reduced due to a slowdown in tourist arrivals. The government has urged Sri Lankans living abroad to send money home. And while the cabinet and central bank governor quit last week, the Rajapaksa brothers are holding on to power. They're blaming demonstrations for impeding the economic recovery.
Even though it can't be done in 2 or 3 days, we are working to end this crisis as soon as possible. Every minute you protest in the streets, we lose our ability to earn dollars.
Those pleas have done little to quell the anger on the streets. Several demonstrators have set up camp outside the president's office and say they won't leave until he does.
This protest won't be ending until this corrupt Rajapaksa regime would be bring down and they would be jailed and our money is back. Until then, we will not back down.
Analysts say an economic lifeline from the IMF will only come if the government agrees to scale back spending and raise taxes. But that could mean even more anger and unrest at a time when the Rajapaksa government is already teetering on the edge. Tayyibe Aydin, TRT World.
Paikiasothy Saravanamuttu is the founder and executive director of the Centre for Policy Alternatives in Colombo. He told us more about the current crisis in Sri Lanka and what a loan from the IMF could mean for the country.
Well, what is happening is that there are protests in the street all over the country demanding that the president and his family leave politics and bring back the money that they have allegedly stolen from the national treasury. And the president is equally adamant that he will not go. In addition, the government has sent the finance minister, the central governor, and the secretary to the treasury to Washington to negotiate a structured default with regard to debt. In addition to the simple prerequisite that the IMF will probably want stable government in Sri Lanka, and so the standoff between the government and the protesters may well have to be resolved, I would imagine that we are talking about raising taxes, getting rid of loss-making state-owned enterprises, curbing public sector spending, so targeted cash transfers to the very poor to tide them over the current situation. This is the first time that we have defaulted on our international financial payments. And so we are in a pretty bad situation, verging on economic collapse. That's the key point, I think, that has to be made. We've had something like 16 agreements with the IMF, but this is coming at the worst time in the history of the country. I think we have to have a realistic exchange rate policy with regard to the dollar-rupee exchange rate. We have to curb public spending, and we have to ensure that the institutions of governance, and particularly economic governance, but not restricted to economic governance, are free from political interference. At the present moment, today is the Sinhala and Tamil New Year, and so the government is trying to provide some relief. But basically, what people are dealing with is acute shortages of fuel, gas, petrol, basic foodstuffs, basic amenities, power cuts, some going from 13 hours to 10 hours. So it's pretty bad in terms of the pain and suffering on a daily basis.